So we have 4 different organizations today. So first of all, we have Abortion Group Berlin, and we have 2 people, Leila, with pronouns she, her, and Christina, they, them. So Leila is a full-spectrum dual-line artist and educator based in Berlin. As a person with lived experience of abortion, they began offering abortion storytelling cycles last year, and since then, they have joined forces with Abortion Group Berlin. And Leila is a member of Abortion Group Berlin as well, which was founded in 2018 from the need of people to have a room outside of state institutions to freely exchange their experiences and to share important information and helpful resources to support themselves and others. Thank you, if you are so kind. Yes. So we have also Lucy, who is a member of Zora, an anti-capitalist, internationalist, and anti-fascist young women organization, which is also the regional group of a European-wide anti-capitalist young women organization. We have also Sophie from Cali Feminists, a political group active in Berlin since 2019. The group is involved in struggles for reproductive justice, against feminicides, and for internationalist feminism. Sophie specializes in the topics of sexualized violence, reproductive work, and the relationship between feminism and Marxism. And last but not least, we have Sabbat, burn the witch, not the witch, I'm sorry, yes. We have Effie and Virginia. Sabbat are a feminist collective from Athens that fights for a classist, intersectional, inclusive feminism. And this is the last time we're asking for your applause, please. So we will have a session which is based mostly on questions in order to be more interactive. And then we will leave around 30 minutes for Q&A. So you will have time to reflect, comment, and pose some questions if you want to. So we are very excited to have this great panel and these people to discuss this topic. And we hope for a colorful discussion and a Q&A session. And last but not least, yes, we kindly request you not to take pictures of the panelists. Just a small disclaimer here. Thank you so much. So, let's start. Yes, make it theatrical. So, we would like to know, what does it mean abortions are illegal in Germany, and what are the origins of this legislation? And you have to take the microphone, yes.
Hi. Disclaimer, I'm not German. Everything I know is just living here for 10 years, having had an abortion. And I thought we were all going to answer that question, actually. It means in the German criminal book, it says having abortion is a crime. It's right after homicide in the order. And it's only depenalized on the condition that someone goes to validated advising, like a family planning, a family center, where you can have a paper that says in the big line, and to make it look bad, like you're sane enough to choose about your choice for your own body, therefore you can go to the gynecolog. But if you go straight to the gynecolog without having this paper, technically you're committing a crime. That's what it means, it's illegal. And it's not in the constitution, it's really in the criminal book. It's with every other crime.
Okay. And do we know the origins of this legislation?
Correct me if anyone has another one, but I've seen it's from 1870, from like the Second Reich. It changed in the 70s. Back then it was completely illegal. Then it was legal under medical circumstances chosen by the doctors. And then it switched to legal if the Beratung take places.
Of course, if anyone wants to supplement, please feel free, but yes.
So the paragraphs that still exist in the penalty code, as Leila said, their basic origins are really also can be drawn back to Nazi laws. But I think it's also important to mention that abortion has not always been illegal in Germany, because in the DDR, in the Eastern German Republic, it was completely legal for women to get an abortion. So after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the eastern part of Germany that has been taken over by Western Germany and companies, and being destroyed and exploited, all the industry, they wouldn't take the progressive laws of Eastern Germany. So for especially women from the East, it was like a horrific situation when they didn't have the chance anymore to get legal access and unbureaucratic and easy access to abortions.
Yeah, great.
I would say, as growing up in France, that's the image I had from Germany. It's a very feminist country because it was like that in the East. I would just like to precise this was legal and anonymous and free for every white German citizen. Every Vietnamese woman guest worker had to go home or was forced to have abortion in secret or to be pregnant in secret and hide the baby. Otherwise, they would be sent back directly to Vietnam. So this applied for German citizens only, not for anyone else in the DDR.
Great. So, but I mean, I think we would like also to know that you mentioned that there are a specific set of rules that you have to follow in order to have an abortion right now. So why are we discussing about this topic, especially in the context of state violence now, if we have a possibility actually to have an abortion in Germany today?
Because the context we're having abortion is, I would kind of do a parallel with like when the extreme right gets a lot of votes, then racist people feel very entitled to be racist in public. So when we're in context of it's not fully legal, doctors, social worker, or anyone who you have to interact, and it's a lot of people because of this mandatory advising, feel very entitled to make you feel extremely bad about your choice or try to convince you to keep the pregnancy, give for adoption, like really, like that's violence, that's gender-based violence, and it's only possible because of the legal context here. Because the law is, actually the advising session is on the law by the text saying it's here only to, mostly to protect the unborn life. It's not here to protect anyone pregnant or any parent who wants to become or not. It's really just here to protect the unborn life. And in this context, it gives a lot of space to people who wants to either not give you this care or give you this care in really bad condition to do it this way, because they are protected 100% by the law.
Yeah, I mean, it also, it stigmatizes a very straightforward medical procedure. That other medical procedures that are similarly straightforward don't have all these laws. So, yeah, the stigma alone of it being illegal makes it inaccessible for a lot of people.
Okay. Talking about this inaccessibility, I think it would be interesting for everyone to know a bit more about the strict rules that you have to follow. Because I think we had also this discussion that is like very short time frame, and I think it would be interesting also to maybe discuss a bit about this.
In Germany, you have up to 12 weeks to have an abortion. If you want to have it later and you have money, maybe you go to the Netherlands. But in Germany, it's 12 weeks, and in between you get the paper. Officially, in between the time you get the paper and you can get the abortion itself, it's a week. And 12 weeks makes that you have to decide also because it's counted from the last period. So from the last day of your last period. So a lot of people also find out in between, and then the time that you get the paper, you find a doctor who has availability to give you the care. It might also make that you're not entitled to have pill abortion, which is the early stage, and otherwise, if it's too late, then you have to get the more invasive one, the, how do you call in English? Curettage?
Surgical, maybe.
Surgical one, yeah.
So, in this context, what are the real life problems that the people in Germany face under this regime, you think?
I mean, realizing that you're pregnant, making a decision for yourself, with your partner, with your family, and then accessing these counseling sessions, scheduling the counseling sessions. Obviously, like, language and culture can be a huge barrier in this. Racism. Hello. And then you can't get this procedure from a doctor that you might already be comfortable with or that you know speaks your language. So there's just like a ton of barriers that make this very short time frame of legality even shorter in actuality. It's a way for the state to offer us cookies that don't actually exist. On paper, it might seem like enough time, especially if you're not a human that gets a period, because also a lot of us don't necessarily have regular periods. So yeah, it's very convenient for people without periods to think like, oh, this is enough. And again, it's centering the fetus and not the person experiencing it.
Also, there are regions in Germany where I think Bavaria, which is the biggest region, has like 2 gynecologists left who are practicing abortion care. There is another region who also has like 1 or 2, which is also a pretty big one. And these people are close to retirement, and they are saying they are quite struggling to find people in their region who would like to keep offering this care for people in their region. So that's also another one. In Berlin, we are more or less lucky, but still, I think all the people I know or that I've met in the group that had abortion here, they had to go to a gynecologist that was not theirs because they find out when they needed the abortion care that their gynecologist was not actually offering that care because they don't have to, it's not mandatory. And if they want to, they actually have to do the extra effort to go and take like additional classes because this is not in their main core course as gynecolog in Germany, which is another, like having to go see a doctor for this kind of treatment or care that you don't know when it's like, it can be sometimes a vulnerable moment for someone. It's already quite another hard step, I would say.
Yes, and because the abortion paragraphs are regulated in the penalty code, where they shouldn't be at all, because why should like abortions be like linked to crimes, to penalty? There's a lot of insecurities for doctors here in Germany, so they just rather stay away from it, from doing this procedure, because there are also like many right-wing groups or religious fundamentalist groups really pressuring doctors. Like we had a famous case in Germany with Christina Henne, like around, please correct me, 7 years ago, I think. And she was informing on her website that she would offer abortions, and she just informed about it and about the methods, like how she would like provide the abortion. And so she was sued by a right-wing extremist, by a fundamentalist. And back then we still had a paragraph 219A, which said it's forbidden to make advertisement for abortions, which is completely ridiculous because like any medical procedure or advertising for any medical procedure is already forbidden in Germany. So why the stupid paragraph? And the only reason for it was like to really restrict the access to information of people who would be in need to have an abortion. So this is like, a huge attack on us. And luckily, like this case was really like outraging many people, and including us from Kali Feminists, we also started like campaigning against the abortion paragraphs, and with many other like feminist group, but also internationalist groups, together with comrades from Latin America who also like had like strong movements for the right of abortions and for reproductive justice, but also with like Polish comrades fighting for their right to abortion. I think the feminist movement in Germany could reach that this paragraph 219a was abolished from the penalty law. But then they thought, okay, why not doing like a whole reform of the stupid paragraphs? But the reform of back then SPD, Social Democrats, and CDU, the Christian Democratic, yeah, whatever. You know, the conservatives. Conservatives. Like they created even more insecurity for the doctors. It was absurd. So the case from Christina Händel, it had to go up and down to different like court levels because it created even more insecurity. And now the last government, they also missed to really to really find a solution. So it's really a problem of providing healthcare, especially in rural areas. It's a class question. Yeah. What?
Germany, it's only gynecolog. That's a question. In Germany, it's only gynecolog who can provide this care.
I believe also like Hebamas that have practicing rights in hospitals also cannot provide abortion in Germany. Midwife.
Yeah.
Which in many, many countries, midwives that cannot practice in hospitals obviously can practice abortion. It's part of a normal spectrum of reproductive care. So it's stigmatized all over, like even for medical professionals, which just obviously creates fear. And this is on purpose because they want it to be illegal. They want it to be inaccessible, and they want to maybe look a bit better. I mean, the PR after Roe v. Wade fell in Germany was crazy. Like, I actually think I saw like Instagram accounts like, you can still get an abortion in Germany, don't worry. And it's like, okay, with a lot of caveats. And you have to pay.
Yeah, very important. In Germany, if you earn above 1,783 euro, you have to pay between 300 and 500 euro for your abortion care. And you cannot deduct your student loan if you're not German. Yeah. And also for the gynecolog who actually fought back, these cuckoo guys, it was like two old guys from Bavaria who were having fun literally checking every website from every gynecolog in the whole country who provide this care, and they already sued so many. She was just the only one who said, fuck that shit, I'm gonna sue back. And she fought, like, she was also, I think, from an older generation. She was really like, I'm not gonna let that go. And then she won, but these people until her were getting fined 15,000 euro for just writing more than abortion, medicamentos, or surgery. Like, this was considered advertisement if you would write more than that. And now the law changed 3 years ago. Like the case was won, but it changed, like it was removed 3 years ago only.
And I think the question that is kind of underlying all of this is, why do we believe that the progressive, so-called liberal German state has not abolished this legislation, this law? I think this would be an interesting question for our audience.
Anyone want to go first? I think they love to control the bodies of people who can get pregnant here. And it's too scary for them that we could choose what we want to do with our uterus. It's very scary. And also they are the one choosing the laws and not having any fear, or like they can't get abortion. Basically, I would say. It's not a reason why, but I would say control mostly. And also they have a lot of money, like the whole extreme right for like against abortion lobby is really rich, and they have a lot of time on their plate to like lobby all over Europe and the world to like get stronger and make sure this thing stays the way it is. So I would say control and money, but
yeah, I mean, I think that it's much easier to get an abortion here if you're German and you speak German. So I think this is very intentional. And it ensures a higher access to healthcare for native German speakers or Germans that understand the medical system already. And it makes it very inaccessible if you're not. in the context of why it would stay illegal in a code and be like decriminalized up until a certain week. I mean, in the US context, for example, it stayed, it was the opposite. So certain states kept their illegality of abortion on the books for 30 plus years. And when Roe v. Wade fell at a federal level, those laws from 1 second to the next changed in those states. So I really think that fascists play a long game, Nazis play a long game. And at the moment, to appease certain people, they say, okay, you can have your 12 weeks of abortion, but when we get enough power and when you have less power, we still have this on the books, and it will be very, very, very easy for us to just take it away completely, because essentially it's not a right. And this is really dangerous and scary and intentional on their part, and I want like us to play a long game as well. And be just as prepared, and sadly, in this arena, we're not.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, right? I mean, why does the liberal or so-called liberal state that it was maybe for some time, or can be called like that for some time now, we see a shift to a more totalitarian state. We can see this shift, and it's a good question. Like they could have maybe changed it, and in the last government, this was really a debate. Like a commission was found. I mean, the commission was not really needed because all the facts were already on the table, but there was a commission on reproductive rights. And in the end, it didn't have had the priority to really put the results of this commission into practice and into laws. So for us, and what you all told us also about the United States, that even if we had been living in some kind of liberal states, it's still like bourgeois states, it's like still capitalist states, it's still like class system states. So in this bourgeois states, even if they for some time played like liberals, we can see how easily rights can be taken away from us again, or that it's still like impossible to, or that we still have to debate this shit, you know? And so I think, yeah, it's also about the character of the state itself, that we still that it's still not granted.
Just for what you said earlier, it would be extremely, extremely easy because it's exactly as in the US. It's illegal. It's only depenalized if you do these things. So it would be so cheap and quick to make it like completely illegal. You just have to remove this one paragraph that says it's depenalized if you go for the Beratung. So that would be really so easy. And I think also maybe it's more specific to the German context, but I have a feeling that's maybe not the agreement, but like the settling, the Christians and the SPD could maybe agree on having this in this condition, and they don't really want to change the whole fundamental law of it. And the commission actually was blocked. It could have been so quick, but the Greens and the SPD blocked it. It was supposed to be done, and then the coalition just fell apart, and this was supposed to be actually changed like within the SPD officially. And now I think the one condition for the coalition with the CDU was that this law would still be changing in the future, but the CDU only agreed to kind of like superficial changes, as maybe more education for the gynecolog and more gynecolog in regions where there is less, but the law still, like the structures of the law remains exactly the same, ready to be removed anytime.
I think it's also important to specify that any pregnancy, that abortion is a medical tool that can be needed and used in any pregnancy at any stage of pregnancy. So what we're talking about here is abortion by choice or a wanted abortion. So that's really important, I think, to define, because you can always access abortion if it's medically indicated. by a medical professional, because if you have a spontaneous miscarriage, they will use this because it's a very, very safe and life-saving medical procedure. And that would be at any stage of pregnancy. A medical professional might indicate or suggest or say we need to use abortion as a medical procedure. So that's very, very important because what we're talking about up here is people with uteruses saying, I want an abortion now at this stage in my pregnancy by choice because I don't want to carry a child full term. So yeah, I think it's an important definition.
Yeah, if you have the prenatal diagnostic, you can have an abortion at 8 months and 3 weeks. And then, like, if something shows up that something is wrong with the fetus, there is no limit of the time. Like, you can have it 2 weeks before the due date.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make, that indeed we are talking about something that is a choice now and not a necessary medical procedure, but that's good to point out. So I would like to go to a different direction now a bit. We have seen that advocates of liberal feminism, they focus almost exclusively on the notions of choice and self-determination, that the women, and I choose this noun very specifically, must decide what to do with their bodies. And we think that we should reclaim these points somehow, because without reframing them into the correct political context and social context, they can be also sometimes dangerous. So we would like to hear if you have an opinion about this, like how can we structure our argumentation when it comes to abortion out of choice, obviously. Okay.
Can you say it another way?
Yes, another way. Okay. Cool. I can go to another question.
No, it sounds great.
Okay, I'm just thinking like the mainstream feminism is using choice, only choice and self-determination.
Yeah.
That's the only main reasons. So we would like to bring something else on the table. What would be the reason to actually have an abortion? Not the reason for the person, but why.
Okay. I'll try. I'm not sure I understood. All right. I hate when people at demos scream, my body, my choice. I get the point. I'm so happy we are here because of this vision since the last decades. But it's a reason why a lot of people come to the abortion group, which is like post-care after you had abortion, if you need help, because abortion doesn't equal to depression. So obviously we only have the small portion that has bad experience with abortion in Berlin. And I think because this my body, my choice is being pushed on your face and you feel like I'm a feminist, I'm a strong, badass, whatever, I can have my abortion and then have an abortion party like they have in movies, or like what feminist, the girl boss feminist image gives you. It gives you no space to feel any other kind of feeling afterward. And this is the context it's giving in Germany. And I actually had this problem when I started the group in Berlin, that we were rejected from other feminist groups because they are thinking we're doing trauma porn, like we're cultivating this bad image of abortion, which was really bad. I'm still not in term with this. I need to address back at some point. It's changing lately. The wind is changing. But this, how to say, it's like you're fighting against racism or like queerphobia, and you're not giving space for people to have care, even though you're fighting because you know this system is bad, but you don't allow people to feel bad after experiencing this state violence. And I've heard it change actually at your demo last time. It was not my body, my choice, was my body, my voice as well. This I like a lot better, because a lot of people choose to have abortion because we live in the world we live in, which come with many, many different challenges depending how privileged or not you are. And often people choose to have abortion more by I think a lot of people wish they would be in situation to carry it. Some people just don't want it. It's also a different situation. But this feminist bubble is not giving you any space to grieve, and sometimes people need to grieve. And for me, this My Body, My Choice, this mainstream one, I can recognize how much great it brought us to this point, good point, bad point, depend. But I think we do need to update that definitely, as you don't have to girl boss your abortion. You can have a difficult abortion, you can ask your friends to be there, you can ask your family, you can be sad, you can cry all the tears in your eyes if you need to. And it's okay, and there will be people for you there, and you don't have to be ashamed that you're feeling bad afterward. It does not equal to feel bad, but if you do, there should be spaces, and you should not be ashamed to be around your feminist friends and say, hey, I'm struggling right now.
Yeah, I also think this idea that abortion has to be always celebrated and it further stigmatizes it in a way. I think that often when people that have had chosen abortions talk about the array of emotions or post-abortion feelings, sensations, experiences, I've often in overt and subtle ways heard from these let's say old school feminists that they're like, shh, don't tell anyone that you maybe experienced postpartum depression because you were physiologically pregnant. And the hormones do very similar things as after you give birth, which is a physiological experience, right? You literally can't tell anyone that you got a little sad after your abortion because then the fascists will try and take it away from us. So this is further stigmatizing something that, again, is just a human experience that, has many, many emotions over the course of many, many years. And that all of them should be welcomed, the same as any other physiological or emotional experience. Abortion is also a physical experience, as is pregnancy, and we can't really girl boss our way out of something that's happening in our bodies or hormonally. And to this idea that if you choose an abortion, you have to just be okay with it. It stigmatizes people and it makes aftercare very inaccessible. Also socially, a lot of people don't know where to go if they are experiencing complicated emotions after a chosen abortion, because it's assumed that if you chose an abortion, you should be thankful to the German state for being able to get it, and then you should shut up about it and be happy. And so it's either that or you think abortion is terrible and you killed a baby and da-da-da-da. And there's obviously the majority of us are in between. And we can just talk about it because lots of people have abortions and lots of people feel differently about their abortions, no matter in different parts of their life.
You want to? Okay, so I think we would like also to hear in this respect, why do we believe that in recent years we are witnessing this kind of setback in many countries for fundamental rights when it comes to reproductive justice? In the US, for example, you mentioned already Roe versus Wade. Also in the EU, we have countries like Poland or Malta. So why do we think this is the case? Sure.
I tell you. No, I think that as Leila already mentioned earlier, it's about the control of bodies that can give birth, and also to control women, especially. This is very entrenched in a conservative and in the conservative thinking. But may I just because I thought of something that could also be or is one of the answers to this conservative setbacks, to the restrictions of our rights and whatsoever. Because I think when we talk about abortions and also the diversity of the experiences, I find, for example, the concept of reproductive justice very important. That it's not only about the possibility, the individual right to get an abortion, like my body, my choice, but to also look at different aspects, that perspectives that you already brought into it, to also like the right to have children. I mean, you were talking about the forced sterilizations and who are the people that should reproduce and who are the people who shouldn't. And that this is like, with the concept of reproductive justice, maybe it's an offer, a possibility to not treat this as an individual or individualist Western feminist approach, but to a more collective approach. And I had to think, when you mentioned like the critics to My Body, My Choice, also of Rita Laura Segato, an Argentinian anthropologist, writing about gender violence and all kinds of very, very interesting, read her books stuff, that she said like also this Me Too movement, like Me Too or My Body, My Choice, this is like from a very Western individualist perspective. And like for example, the Ni Una Menos movement, like we're celebrating now 10 years Ni Una Menos, and we're gonna talk about it later when we're talking about femicides, but this is like from us, like as a collective, Ni Una Menos, not one less. So this is a whole different approach to those questions. And yeah, maybe those can also be answers or approaches to this conservative backlashes.
Yeah, sure. Please, whoever wants to. Yes, let's.
So reproductive justice was coined by a Black organization in the US called Sister Song, and it's the right to have children, the right to not have children, and the right to raise those children in safe and supportive environments. So this is a really brilliant framework that I'm happy that we're all working towards.
Hi. Actually, I just wanted to make one comment. Okay, now in Greece it's not that hot, this discussion, because the abortions are legal since 1986. But still, all the world, we are experiencing this rise of the alt-right and the neo-fascist rhetoric about the rights of the unborn life, blah, blah. So actually, what we have discussed in our collective is that the crucial driving force that is pushing so much in order to delegalize the abortions is first one, the demographics. This is something that for the European population, they put a lot of pressure on this issue, that the population is getting older and older in Europe, and that there are no children born. There are not a lot of children born. So actually for us, the demographic problem is a problem of the state-nation, and we are not in favor of this. So actually, this is not our problem. There are a lot of migrant children in all the European countries, and still this is a danger if we just consider all the European countries with with white people, Orthodox or Catholic people, Christians, and with all this cultural frame. And the second role that is very important, the second parameter that pushes all this discussion for delegalization is the military preparations. And of course, when all Europe is preparing for war, and this is the major topic, they want that the women are the reproductory machines, that they want to reproduce the nation in order to fight, in order to have the future, in order to go to fight and then come back and have something there. So in this frame, I mean that the pressure is getting bigger and bigger, because we are now witnessing that all this military preparation is getting harsher and harsher, and they just want to protect what the white supremacy has been created till now in Europe.
Thank you. let's be.
Germany has a really, I think, one of the lowest fertility rate in Europe, not as we're not fertile here, but as people don't want to make children anymore. And I think this is also playing in the role of why they don't want to make it even more accessible. And I also definitely agree, like Macron, the president of one of my countries, literally said on his like yearly speech on New Year or something that the women of France need to prepare this year for a reproductive rearming of the country using these words.
Wow.
So I really think there is a strong correlation between abortion, like access to parenthood if you want or not, and arming, like preparing for war. And also they want cheap labors, definitely, but also the fact that, I mean, you can see in two ways. Is it nice that they offer free abortion care for people with lower income? Or do they want to encourage you to not have children if you're going to ask for money from the state? Which you could also see as, if you're rich, please think twice if you really want to have abortion. And even when you're done thinking twice about it, I'm still going to make you pay 500 euro to access this care. So I think it's also encouraging some people not to be too reproducing themselves and encouraging some others to actually reproduce themselves.
Do we have any more comments? Or one comment? One last comment. I think it was a powerful closing for abortion. So
I just want to note that in Greece we had, I'm not used to hold these microphones. In Greece we had, there is no social state, I mean, for all this gender-based violence, so all these social structures are very, it's not well equipped, but still, during Syriza time, this was the government of Greece from 2015 to 2019, they had created this secretary for gender equality. After that, there's a right-wing party that gained the power, New Democracy, and they have renamed this secretary for gender equality, and they have renamed it to Ministry for Family. This is what I mean. We have so many famous, so many incidents of gender-based violence, and the only thing that the state is thinking of in order to create a clear policy and agenda is how to create the nuclear family.
thank you so much for the input, for the great replies. I'm trying to be mindful of the time. So, do you have more comments? Sorry. One sentence. Yes, one sentence though. Thank you.
The place you go have abortion in Berlin is called Pro Familia, which means for family. Point.
Yes. So thank you again. Yes. So, so now we will move to a equally important point on femicides, slightly more depressing, I would say, maybe. So we would go straight to it. And I would like to ask, what do you think that is the role of the state, either via its actions or omissions, in perpetuating the culture of gender-based violence, especially when we talk about femicides? Yes. Luz. Yes.
Thank you. First of all, it was very interesting also hearing your discussion. I think a lot of the points that were already made about abortions will also kind of come up in the discussion on gender-based violence. I think we think that there are different ways in which the state is also has the blood of the women on its hands in this issue. I think there are multiple things the state either does or do not does in order to also, and at the end of the day, the women die. On one hand, we have a lot of situation, a lot of things we also see here in Berlin,
where there's a lot of things missing that we know women need in order to survive. For example, we have like from the Istanbul Conventions, from some European Union regulations, we know that there are laws, that there are guidelines which Germany kind of has to follow or should follow in order to save women's lives. Berlin is nowhere, for example, in how many beds there should be in women's shelters in Berlin. Berlin is nowhere near this number. Like, I think there are 400 beds and it needs to be 900 in order for it to cover like the Istanbul Convention idea. But now, today, like this year, the new Senate also of Berlin, they are answering the rising numbers of femicides in Germany, not by like making more women's shelters or giving money to women's shelters or in any way answering the crisis many women's shelters in Berlin face, but by cutting them down. Cutting the money from the women's shelters, cutting the personnel, cutting everything the women's shelters need in order to save women's lives. Because also what you already said, there are other things more interesting right now for the German government than women's lives, which is mostly the war machine. So this is one way in which the German government has blood on its hands. And there are also many other cases in which either the policemen, the soldiers of Germany are themselves the murderers or the perpetrators of women, or where the institutions that Germany has are failing. We as Zora worked a lot around one case of a femicide that happened 3 years ago in Berlin, the murder of Zora Mohammed Gul. She was a woman who lived in Berlin, Pankow, in the north of Berlin, and she was murdered by her ex-husband. She had been to the police multiple times, telling them about the violence she's suffering from, telling them about how she's afraid of her own life, afraid for the life of her 6 children. And the state, the policemen, didn't care for what she was telling them, didn't care for the way she was describing her violence, and she was murdered. The same thing happened last summer in Zehlendorf to a Lebanese woman called Nurhan. Her family also filed for Staatsversagen, like they Anzeigen. they said in court that the state failed their daughter because she like moved to a different place in Berlin, and then the police said now it's not important to have this approach restriction for her ex-husband anymore, even though her entire family, everybody that knew that man, said there needs to be an approach restriction. And at the end of the day she was killed. And this is not something that happens like in 1 or 2 cases and then it's a big tragedy and the policemen get fired and everything is like changed. This is like the normal case. This is what usually happens, especially with refugee women, with migrant women, like both of these cases also are. Yes, and I think that are just like some versions in which the German state is also responsible for the state of violence against women in Germany.
So, building on this, I think it's interesting to know why do we think that we should not only focus on the misogynist patriarch, the husband, whoever, in cases of femicides, but also for the state itself. Why should we shift our focus as well? Sure, I mean.
I'm not here for that, but I do that for work. Sorry. It's 5,000 bed missing in Berlin-Brandenburg. 5,000, that's a lot. And so we give more context because maybe it's not obvious, but what's called Frauenhaus here is like the places you can go and live, and it's a place no one knows the address beside the people walking in the house. It's a place people experiencing domestic violence can ask for spots with their children if their son is not older than 12 years old. So it's also coming with other violence in this way that's already criminalizing young boys, but that's not topic. And also a lot of people that we accompany at my work for filing up reports. We have to go with them because when they go alone, the police say, no, that's not violence, you can just go home.
there are many like forms of femicides, and it's like really the last stage because it's so final. But when we talk about femicides, we really have to talk about the continuum and the contingent, you know, where it starts. It starts with like street harassment. It starts with jokes or comments about how we look, superficial comments, sexualized violence. Like a femicides are related to how our state is constructed because femicides are no single cases. Femicides are a structural problem and a bigger problem of sexism, of gender violence and oppression of women, of queer people, of trans people. And what if we wanna like fight the state and really see the connection between patriarchy and capitalism, we also need to understand that the division of gender, and when I say division of gender, I say the also the creation of a binary, right? Of just like two imagined genders, just women and men, that this division of women and men, and also the division of labor, of reproductive labor and so-called productive labor, that it's functional also for a bourgeois capitalist state. So it's really entrenched the questions of gender violence and also how the state works. And now, like I think at the beginning of our panel, you asked the question, so how can we, like, if we want to abolish this violent state, if we're like really saying, no, it's so entrenched to gender violence, what kind of, I think it was kind of the question in the beginning, what kind of sense does it make to try to change something within the system?
How can we ask the state of changing something that it's kind of propagating itself, basically? Yeah, that was just
to tie it to this abortion waiting period, how long do you have to wait in Germany to get a divorce? It's like a year, or right? So like, why is the state telling, like, why? And this is, you know, like, even for people, and then you have to maybe prove in other ways to the state that you're actually experiencing a certain type of violence, right, in order to maybe expedite this divorce. But yeah, we really give a lot of power over to the state and then have to prove our humanity over and over and over again, to a state that doesn't see us as human up until they deem it so.
For your question, I understood that what's worth fighting if the extremity is propagating, no?
I mean, that was the...
Yeah, I'll just say, in general, we have a lot more power than the law. The law is just a decoration. Like, I think in France, we really think voting is enough, and actually, no, burning the shit down helps a bit more, and I really miss this in Germany. I hope we understood that we have a lot more power in our hand than the law, and resting on this thing and going to our bed because it doesn't attack us directly, only make the attack coming on us a month later. And I really hope there was a bit more political education on that here, or just a sense of autonomy, that you have power in your hands to do things. You don't have to wait.
Yeah, and in this sense, I think it's also important for a panel like this to talk also about the class question, right? Like, how is our power as working class linked to feminism, and also to like our goals that we want. We want to live in a world without violence. We want to live in a world where our needs are fulfilled. And I think it's really important to also connect these issues. We tried when we founded our group Kali Feminists. We made a campaign like to strike away the abortion paragraphs, like to use strike as a method of working class to achieve our goals, also to our feminist goals. Yeah, but I mean there are many examples of how we can talk more about our power. Yeah,
I think this panel is one of the ways, actually. to talk about these things. So maybe, yes. So I would like to discuss a bit about the intersectionality question a bit more. So like I think that we have seen also in recent years that kind of femicides are a part of the public discourse. And I mean, we see, for example, in Greece that they have become a bit more, they have been part of the discussion, but also simultaneously, we see that some of these incidents become a bit invisible, especially when the recipients of violence are, for example, trans people, gender non-affirming people, migrants, refugees, sex workers. So we would like to how would you explain this kind of dichotomy there? Okay, sure. Yeah.
So if we realize that the state supports the conservative perspective of the nuclear family, and the only way of living is the heteronormativity. Sorry.
Να δώσω αυτό. Ναι. Όλα καλά.
Did you hear anything? Okay, thank you. There is already a lot of oppressions that women and queer people have to handle. So if we add the racism by race and class, that means that we divide people, if we could divide people by state, as useful bodies, such as Foucault have said, which means that they can reproduce, they can be acknowledged from the state, they can be normal. And there are bodies that they are easily exploited because they are migrants without having papers, without being legal in countries, or being from other ethnicities that they have many difficulties in living generally. So this could be exploited easily by the state, and no one will give the same credit on an assault on them. We might not even learn their names. I'm sorry, I'm having difficulties in English, apparently. So apart from that, if we talk about queer people, they don't get along with the story of a state. They get frustrated by the policies that it has nothing to do with their rights, and they are fighting for having an equal treatment. I'm sorry. So there is no use or less use for the state for all these kind of people. So that's why we have different approaches for every kind of oppression, but all oppressions have to be read at the same time, because differently we cannot talk about the whole perspective of the issue.
Any other comments? No. Okay. So where am I? Yes. So we would like to move a bit forward to a different aspect of the topic about the legal recognition. So there are many. Also, we have, for example, carceral feminists that they advocate for the legal recognition of femicides or feminicides in its special treatment in the penal code. So, do we have an opinion on this? Like, what would be an argument for this or against this?
I will read this, I will be better. So I have to specificate that femicide and feminicide has a difference, but only in English. I mean, in Greece there is no difference between, we have no feminicide as a word. That comes from different terminology, even between languages or in the same language itself. I mean, we have to explain sometimes the terminology we use, even we use it if it's the same word, because the policy behind the word we use differs from collective to collective. And that's, I would like to make a comment afterwards about the slogan, my body, my right, because I didn't have the time before. However, femicide is the general term about the sex-gender motivated violence. However, feminicide is the gender-motivated violence acknowledging the responsibility of all those state structures in charge of the protection of the human right of a woman. Practically, I think, my opinion is that every femicide is a feminicide because state, government, police, everyone has something to do with every femicide. For example, when Zakio was killed by owner of shops. They started. It started with owner of shops and with the help of cops. So he was accused, as if this could be an accusal, that he was a drug addict at first, and that he was trying to rob a jewel store afterwards, as if these explanations would be okay to kill somebody, and calling that defense. They said that the store owners were in defense of a person that was trembling of fear. So I think.
Okay. I thought you want to say something.
No, you can go first.
Okay. Here we have may have mixed up. So your question was about the legal recognition, right? Yeah. Okay. First of all, a general comment for us as feminists. It's really important to penetrate the public discourse and call that the feminine side, because we would like to note that there is this gender that is the criterion of this murder. In Greece, we don't have a long time that the people are talking about feminicide. This term entered the public discourse in 2018. After the rape, torture, and murder of Lenita Paloudi, and this was something that many feminist collectives, we tried to put it up in the public discourse, and now there are all the mass media that they're talking about femicides, which was not the case 10 years ago. It was always about this crime of honor, or that he was crazy about her, he was jealous about her, and that's why he killed her. So it was always a different, another explanation, like the love killed her. Now, regarding the legal recognition, for sure it's something that it's nice to have. I mean, it's not bad. We wouldn't say that it's a weapon. It's a weapon that we could use, and there are many cases that the people would like to have this. However, it's not very high in priority. I mean, for our collective is somehow deprioritized in our narratives, because we have a different analysis how this legal frame can help us. Mainly, we are. I mean, after we had this collective reading of this abolition feminism from Angela Davis, we have realized that all the demands of black feminism back to the 70s, they tried to highlight that all this prison industrial complex creates the state violence and this narrative that if the perpetrators, the rapists, will go to jail, somehow we had this feeling that everything would be better. But this is all different aspects of state violence. And this won't help us to go farther. And this is something that many cases, many countries in Latin America have a very strong legal framework for gender-based violence and feminicide. But in the last years, we haven't seen any decrease in these cases. Moreover, it's important to note that in the 70s, when all black feminism said, we're talking about this racial oppression and that all repressions come to cross-link due to race, class, and gender. There were a lot of battle between the white Americans that back then they have tried to get the gender-based violence as a crime. And they fail to grasp that state violence is a foundational component of interpersonal violence. So we won't live a better life if all the perpetrations becomes the targets of the state violence. And actually, if we are fighting for freedom, then it's not our role to ask for tightening the penal system, which will satisfy conservative audiences. We want to live in a better society by trying to get more surveillance, more police, and all this type of law and order. Actually, it's they are trying a lot to give the society the impression that they can sleep happily and quietly if the state increases the violence that can be applied on the perpetrators. So actually this, the criminal offense, this recognition of criminal offense is not one of our basic demands. For us, the most important part is to demand and fight the protection and to somehow envision the future with other type of societies, with other bonding, with other thinking about what is gender-based violence and how we can protect ourselves. So I can revert, but...
Thank you very much for, I think, this very important contribution, also mentioning like Angela Davis and the prison industrial complex. I just wanted to also tell something about the context here in Germany, where a few years ago, inspired by the Latin American feminist movement, the Ni Una Menos movement, that we decided to create a network against feminicides also here in Berlin. So much is happening. I think it was in 2020, and from Kali Feminists, we when the network started. Now, unfortunately, I have to admit we're not that active in this network right now. But we were like very active in the beginning. We were also founding this network with other groups, and so we also wanted to like establish more the concept of femicides, but also to really fight like gender violence here. And we had like 7 core demands. And one of our demands was like, we want femicide to be part of the penalty code. And this was not because we were all like carceral feminists and like go, yeah, more state repression and this is gonna save us. No, it was like really I can say that we didn't know better. Like we thought, oh, this could be like a good tactical move, like to put this discourse more also on the table. And 2 years ago, we as a group, we were also invited here to your beautiful festival. And 2 comrades of mine were sitting here with Irene from Kamia Anoi. I hope I pronounced it well. Yes. And it was really, for me, this was like really inspiring because Irene, she was like really debating that it would like make no sense to demand that it's in the penalty code, that in the end it will not serve. And for us, it was like super interesting and inspiring to also rethink our first demands. And I really want to recommend also the books of 2 German feminist lawyers, Christina Klemm and I mean not German lawyers, but lawyers in Germany, and Asha Hedayati, who are like working with women who have experienced gender-based violence and who have like causes of femicides in their families and whatsoever. And what they are saying is it wouldn't make much sense to put like the concept of femicides in the penalty code here in Germany because there are already strong laws here. The problem is that the laws, they are not applied. So because of the sexism within the legal system. So if those laws would be applied, it would help them and their clients to at least gain a little bit of justice.
Yeah, sure. Please.
I'm always wondering how can we care for each other outside of the state. For example, my partner of 12 years is a cis black man, and he experiences violence at the intersection of gender and race. So when we're only talking about femicide or violence against women, we're losing a lot of coalition and we're losing a lot of amazing conversations and power. Over the course of 12 years, we've spoken a lot about our experience, my intersection as a white queer person, femme appearing, my experience of gender violence, and his experience as a black man of gender violence, which he experiences every day, particularly in Europe. And to leave people like him outside of these conversations and outside of our conversations of how can we all care for each other outside of the state, I think is, we're solving one problem and putting it on the backs of another. Because in the U.S., a lot of white women, a lot of white violence has come from this idea that white women are always attacked by men of color. And it goes back to also why you can't access a bed if you have a child, male-appearing child over 12. And I think the state counts on this. We're very distracted now, right? Like, let's get this law on the books, let's get this law on the books, when it's like, well, we actually don't need you. You actually enact violence at every turn. So how can we build coalitions of care? And I think I'm like much more interested in talking about this, actually.
Of course, we agree with the basis that the most important thing is that we fight for our own justice, that we fight for our own defense, and that we will be the only ones who can really liberate ourselves from violence. I think the discussions about demands, if it's about abortions, if it's about funding women's shelters, about putting like changing the penalty code, how what is charged with what. These are all tactical decisions we can discuss. What is the smartest thing to demand right now? What are the things that we can also get a moving starting? Because in like if we look at what happened in Latin America with the neo-Namenos movement and everything they have achieved, also with these demands, they were fighting for these demands with organizations, with all the women together fighting to change their countries. I mean, now we also see someone like Milei coming into government, and like a lot of things that these women have fought for years being just taken back with like this. So we know all of this. I think the most important question we have to ask ourselves today in Germany, also maybe in other parts of Europe, is not necessarily what are our demands, or in which way will we at the end of the day be played by the state, because we will be happy because we have reached this demand, and then but then the violence will continue because it's not like the solution. I think the question we have to ask ourselves today is how we can even start a movement, because there are femicides happening every day in Germany and no one's on the streets against this, no one is fighting it. I think we are not really at the place of discussing what will happen if we reach all of our demands and then the violence continues, and everyone has fallen into the belief that the German state will save us from the patriarchy, because we aren't even there, because we aren't even fighting right now. I mean, we are fighting, but there is no movement against gender-based violence in Germany. There is no people on the streets when women get killed. There is no people drawing attention to this. It's happened, it changed. We used to say every third day a woman gets murdered in Germany. It used to be every third day. It's what we said on our demonstration. We said this in the moderation, in the speeches, what we posted in every of our analysis, blah, blah. And it changed to every day. Every day a woman gets killed in this country, and there's no answer on the streets. Nobody is like rioting, nothing is burning. And I think this is the main question we have to discuss. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for raising this question. I just wanted to state that, we, like from Kali Feminists, together with other groups, also with Abortion Selbsthilfegruppe, and also with Latin American comrades and other feminist groups, we were also like asking this question, like, why is there, in our opinion, no dynamic feminist movement here in Germany? Because reasons for that would be enough, and I mean we are here as organized feminists and political groups, but is there really like a movement right now in Germany that can not only react to femicides, but then that can really go into the offense in an offensive way, like they at least that is, I think, why the Latin American movement was so inspiring, because for example, in Argentina, they really went into the offensive.
In the offensive.
You can say it in
the
English
offensive,
as well.
yeah.
In the offensive. And they were not like having defense struggles, like we're defending our rights, we're defending this and that. No, they went into the offensive. And I brought some brochures from our workshops. Leila was there as well with other feminist groups. We Want More. Feminist Exchange for a Progressive Movement in Berlin. And if you want, you can take a brochure. We have it in German and English afterwards. Yeah. Also trying to debate this question. Yeah.
Thank you.
A quick note on the legality. In my work, I have to do a lot of formation, like additional formation, and I'm in contact with a lot of people who works in Frauenhaus, like where the people are supposed to go and get refuge or like shelter when they are experiencing domestic violence again. And I think more in first or second generation of diaspora kids right now, a lot of conversation of the social worker who work there is, I'm tired of just, in French we say, fixing the broken bowl. I want to fix the problem. I don't want to just keep hugging the person who was broken from this violence. I want to go to the person doing the violence, sit with them, and do something about it. And I think there is a big clash right now with the first generation of feminists and the newest generation who also see that more with intersectionality in that direction. And I think there was a bit of a pushback against Täterarbeit, so like work with the offender. And I feel like lately there is a change of people understood we can't rely on the law, so maybe we need to find another way, just try another way, and like maybe have someone who's able to sit, maybe also offer restorative justice, I think it's called in Germany. That's something that's already offered in other countries, but obviously only if the person who experienced domestic violence wants. But there is a talk of we need to sit with men. We need to sit and invite them to the table. There are different structures. The person don't have to always agree, but I see in the social worker in Berlin really like a feeling of tiredness to just be trying to fix the people who are in pain and go to the source of the pain.
Just another comment on this. Is it working?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, closer. Actually, one other point in this discussion would be that the state wants to that we as women are in this state of fear, because actually it makes the victim, and it makes the social role, the social construction that they have assigned for us. So for us, it's not important to have this legal recognition of femicide. For us, it's important to have the legal recognition of self-defense, which is not part of the legal framework. That there are so many cases that women resist when they are have been attacked, and. In Greece, not at all. It's a very conservative state. But in general, it's nothing that is recognized as self-defense, that if we have the legal right to do that, and there would be no punishment, there would be no re-traumatized, because all these court procedures are re-traumatizing again and again all the LGBTQ, people of color, women, LGBTQ, that every time you have to prove, say the story again and again, in order to prove that this was not your initiation and you had to fight back. And it's always this story that the state won't be convinced that you will have to defend yourself. And this is something that the grass-rooted movement has to put it forward and go and speak openly about the self-defense.
No comments. Okay. So I was just because we were discussing about this also in our group, and I think it ties with many things that you have said, each and every one of you. And I think also, Sophie, you mentioned before also that femicide is kind of the last stage, in a sense, in an array of behavioral patterns, abusive actions, so many things, so many acts of violence, that in the end they kind of the people that are the recipients of this, they are encumbered throughout their lives. We have domestic violence, we have sexual violence, we have precarious working conditions for people, for women, for queer people, that they precede femicides, and somehow we kind of, if we focus so much on that part, we forget about this. So I think it's also a good point to make that there are also many other acts of violence that we face every day, and they are not, because it's not the extreme, it's not so much in the public discourse, or like it doesn't get so much attention. I mean, obviously, being killed is the ultimate, but still, yeah, sure.
To go back on that, in France, the law for consent in sex was just changed following the Gisèle Pellicot case, because there was so much videos, like the media really played a role in that. And I have a feeling the mentality will change also on feminist side in France, for that context. If it gets so mediatized, there is no escape for this topic to be on the table. It was on everyone's Christmas table, dinner, in every house in the country. You could not escape that topic. And I think this really, the mediatization and the fact that it was filmed and the videos were publicly released or leaked, really make it that it was in everyone's face. And it's sad because it means maybe awful thing will have to be filmed for the topic to be in the media. But I think sadly in France, like for example, the Gisèle Pellico really made a change. Like the concept of consent was not changed for like decades. Like to look at it as, I mean.
Okay. I think I have one closing question. What is the time? Just to also. It's. I think again you have all raised different points on this. So if it's repetitive, please let me know. But I think it would tied with a more political statement here. So how do the neoliberal policies in the capitalist states, you think, they impact the violence that women and queer people experience inside the house or outside the house? I think you also kind of touched upon this now with the fear, but I mean, if we have more input, that would be great. Please.
Just a very short comment. Yeah, actually, the state violence is fundamental part of the interpersonal violence, and there was the time of the lockdown during COVID pandemic that we have witnessed that if the state imposes curfew and people cannot go out or can go out under certain restrictions, then many women and LGBTQ people have to stay at home with their abusers. The violence increases. So whenever we face, I want just to summarize that whenever we face these circumstances, these extreme circumstances, the violence inside the society is rising up. In Greece, we have seen that also during a memorandum that whenever, with all these austerity policies and impoverishment, the people get more and more angry. There are certain parts of the society that are more marginalized, that do not have the same rights and stuff. So actually these people are the people that get more and more violence, because with all this oppression, coming basically on class oppression, but then from other different, from racial and gender oppression, it creates this bomb at the end. And it's something that we cannot, we have to witness, we have to put, to raise awareness that whenever the states increase all this surveillance and neoliberal practices, all the inside violence increases. And we have to create the communities that we have to stop it and discuss about it and bring all these things up to the surface every day, wherever we are.
Yes, I wanted to add, at the end of the day, the politics of the state, whether they are neoliberal or fascist, whether they are the Grüne Partei or the AfD or whoever, they're not random. Like they're not just whatever the people thought at the morning of that day. The state has a purpose. And the purpose of the state, the purpose of the politics of that state is always to uphold the system which we live in, which the state upholds. That's its job, that's its duty. And the system the state upholds is a patriarchal system, is a capitalist patriarchal system which is built on the oppression and exploitation of people, of women, of LGBTI people, of different people. So if the system and the state, if the system needs this oppression and exploitation in order to keep its system ongoing, then the politics of that state will always also fulfill that job. So the state will not start making laws that are against its own interest of upholding a patriarchal system. The politics of the state are in order so the system will continue. We see this in many different cases. Also, we didn't, I think in other panels in this festival, there will also be discussions about police violence, about repression, which is also something that shows the job, the duty, the idea of the state, the bourgeois state, as a comrade said, is to uphold the system that we live in. And if the system is built up on a patriarchal system, then also the violence against us, the gender-based violence, is a part of the system. So it's not just politics that influence this violence or this system. It's definitely, I would also agree that in times of crisis, and also I think we live in such a time right now with the militarization, with the preparations for war, as you also said in the beginning, that we also right now live in a time of crisis where the anger, where the aggression, where the brutality is rising, and we see many cases of women being like burned in the public by their hair. Or we see cases of femicides that are just even more brutal and out in the open than we have seen in the past. But also, even if we're not in a time of crisis, even if we are in a time of perfectly happy, healthy, capitalist, patriarchal system, even in that time, if it will come someday, even in that time, the politics of a capitalist, patriarchal state will still uphold this violence and this system. And this is also, I think, why we have been discussing the entire time why it is important to also attack this with our politics, to see that as the reason of the violent, the like core, no, the surface maybe of the violence, why it's happening, and to aim our politics at this as the reason, so that if we really want to like free ourselves of this violence, of this patriarchal system, then we have to target the entire system and not only like the surface, the things we see daily. And of course, I think for us, this answer always has to be to organize, to get together as women, as in our communities, in our places. However, we wanted to organize to fight together for the women's revolution, for the revolution of everything, so that we can live freely together.
Comment, yes.
Just, I agree, like, stop demanding, start taking. Especially if you have a European passport and look or pass pretty white, it's your responsibility today to do something. Now.
I think this was our beautiful panel. Do you have any last comments or some takeaways, something you would like to say before we close for today?
Free Palestine.
Yes. So thank you very much for being here and for your great statements and your great replies. And now we have some time for the Q&A. So if people have questions, yes, we can see you. We can see you, my friend, on the back. I don't know who is gonna do the microphone thingy. Yes, thank you. Should yes, I think this is the.
But you need to come in the front because it's... Το κάνεις εσύ, θες εσύ. Έλα. Δεν νομίζω να φτάνει. Έλα, κάτσε εδώ.
So, thank you so much for the panel. I find it really insightful. Thank you very, very much. I was thinking maybe it could be understood from the whole discussion, but I wanted to be answered like as a question. It starts with the fear inside at home, then it goes to unjust wages at work or in our rape, or in our control of our bodies with abortions or sterilization, or then it goes till the death, till the killing. And the question, and I don't think that the penal code could be the answer, just because of the discussion, because I think that it's an easy thing to do for the liberal state to make it because I think that they try to make a big thing when we are dead. When we are alive, it's the problem. When we are dead, they can handle it, but when we are alive, they don't do something for us. And the question is, what is the state? What is the profit? Why is the state doing it? What is the profit of our suffering for the state? Why is the state trying to make us suffer?
I mean, it is a very, very, very big question that you raised. And in I can only maybe talk from my personal perspective to how I approached those questions in the past, or what was helping me, for example. It was really to engaging in Marxism, read. Das Kapital is one of the best books ever. If you got if you got the time, just read Das Kapital. And especially if you are interested in a more as we all are, in a more gender perspective, I can really recommend the book Social Reproduction Theory by Titi Bhattacharya, and especially her article in this book. I got it as online, I got it as PDF, just I can send it out. If you want, you don't need to buy. I hope it's okay for Titi. And I think this is really explaining very well how the division of gender, the division of labor, the exploitation of working class people, and which role the reproduction of the working class also plays in this system is very well explained, and it's really mind changing. And if you got more time, Titi Bhattacharya is referring a lot to Lise Vogel, Marxism and the Oppression of Women. It's a really great book as well. And I think there can be some answers, I cannot start lecturing now for 1 hour, but...
I would just ask what would be the cost of our liberation to that question. And I think it's a question to your question, but yeah. What would be the cost of our liberation? It would be dangerous for them. That's why we're not.
Yes, I agree with both answers before, but I think in addition, I think with gender-based violence specifically, we see that a lot of times there's a mindset behind this violence that the woman is the Besitz of property of the man, and that for example, the woman that wants to get a divorce, that wants to get her own place, that wants to make her own decisions, that wants to be her own, be self-determined, that this is the moment the violence happens, or the violence is building up. That these are trigger points, I guess. And I think what stands behind this is a patriarchal view that the women's life are the property of men, and that the moment we start choosing for our own, we start fighting for our own liberty, for our own lives, is the moment we get dangerous. So kind of the question you ask, what is the cost of our liberation? The cost of our liberation would be not to do the free housework that keeps this entire system running. The cost of our liberation would be that it's not our bodies, our labor, our oppression that is upholding the system. And this is something the system can't afford. And this is why they need even these brutal methods of gender-based violence in order to keep us in our position, in order to keep us afraid from uprising, from resisting, if it's in our own like kitchen or on the streets.
I mean, also, the state only protects a minority of people. Right? It was built to dominate the majority of us. So I think the question is like less like it was built to be violent. So why would I like ask the state why it's violent? Because it was built for that. I think that building for me it's like I want to spend our time thinking outside of this. Like why am I asking the state why it's violent? It was built for that, and for the majority of us, women, queer people, people of color, it just is and it has been, and that's the point. So for me, especially coming from the US where we don't have access to socialized healthcare, we have beautiful elders and long-term mutual aid networks that have functioned in and out of legality without the state forever. This is, I really miss this conversation in Germany because I feel like Mama and Papa Stadt were really preoccupied with them here. And they don't care about us. Why do I care why they're violent? I care about the people and I care about caring for building networks of care. Because the state will never do that for us and it never has.
I would like to have a comment, hopefully empowering. I believe that if the oppressed people throughout collective fights, raising awareness and expanding our safe spaces by having each other's back, I think that's a part of the answer for starting and having comrade relationships between us. So I think having comrade relationships is what state is afraid of. We can see that by the march to Gaza. We can see that by people trying to fight about their rights. And I would like to finish with a chanting we have in Greek. It doesn't rhyme in English though, which is saying, "We are many, we won't be silenced, we will burn the state and patriarchy." Thank you.
You also?
I would like to say a comment to this question that I actually am deducting from all what you said. If the system is based on oppression and violence, this oppression and violence has to go to the lesser, so the one above can continue in this system. So the oppression comes like the Gesellschaft. The society is built on layers, and if the first layer gets oppression and violence, either it stand against this oppression and violence, or it presses down this oppression and violence so it can survive in this system. And the next step gets oppression and violence and push it down and push it down and push it down. So each time you go lesser in the layers of the society, the oppression and violence is much bigger until somebody dies at the end. The person that dies at the end, it's the person that has the lowest power in the society. So either you stand against this violence that comes from the society or from the state, or you push it down and push it down and push it down. So maybe women is in the layers of the society are less than men because maybe they are seen as a property of the man, but also this violence go down to immigrants or people of color or whatever, like people from lesser social or economical class. So as long as the system is oppressive and violent, there will be oppression and violence to wherever the layer in the society until somebody dies. At the end, like, there is where the oppression and violence ends and then come again. So
I have one person here, another there. Last comment. I had also my hand raised, but if I don't have time, it's fine for me.
Can I just say something? That's what I meant by, and like that's the example in the DDR when everyone was so proud to have abortion. It's just people were proud because people looking like them were having abortion. And in Germany, in Europe, I feel like we've been helping each other, people looking like each other as white-looking people, and we've been only looking at this. And this is something that's really missing here. In general in this continent, that we need to look down, we need to look who is having it even shittier than us, and what can we do there, instead of just looking on our level. Okay, my situation is more or less okay, so I'll just go to this demo once a year against the AfD, and then I'll go home and I feel very good, because that's the only problem in this country. It's not the only problem in this country. The SPD, the Grünen, the FDP, all of them, SDP, all of them are a problem. We need to stop looking at AfD like they are just the demon of the country. The demon is everywhere.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for all of your, for this whole discussion. I find 2 points very interesting. The first being that violence should be not necessarily legally grounded, but violence could be also bureaucratic. And I remember, for example, coming to Germany and also 2013, die Pille danach, you had to also go through this Beratung procedure. And in order to have the Pille danach and have also a functioning Pille danach, you have to take it 3 days after the accident happened. So it was also very difficult for women that wanted to not just abort, but just kind of, go through the procedure, avoid the procedure of pregnancy or even abortion. It was even very harsh for them, and then the legal framework changed. But in 2013, you had to go to a hospital at 3 o'clock in the morning to the Notfallaufnahme, and then there was a person there asking you if you had Geschlechtsverkehr, if you had sex. So, yeah. So it's not only about abortion, it's also kind of a hatred against women's body when they're not only sexualized. And I found also the other point very interesting, that the Western feminism should be very glamorous and my body, my choice, and I'm very proud of it because it's mine. And whatever is a little bit connected to hormonal changes or traumas or negative feelings is at the same time invalidated as a experience, as a victimized experience. And I think hormones should also take a place in modern day feminism without them being held as something completely unlogical and something completely outside the society. Because, the discussion about state and state violence is also very important, but bodies have also a social function and a psychological function, and I think this is also very interesting.
Right. I mean, also to your point, you shouldn't have too many children either, right? You shouldn't maybe accidentally get pregnant. You shouldn't get pregnant. You shouldn't have an abortion, but also don't have too many kids.
after day pill in Germany is legal only since 2011. And abortion is also not completely legally. So I'm also wondering really what's the 2009, 2011? Which one was it then? Then don't take this wrong. I got it wrong. The one you have after you had sex and the condom broke or something. 2000s? Okay, my bad. I'm saying shit.
Are you done?
Yes?
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I have a question and also a little comment. The question, I think, is more on the information side about the abortions. And listening to the conversations, I had many questions about the German situation here and why are not people on the streets. So I wanted to ask, on a micro, I guess, perspective, if you know what's happening at unis. I mean, there are doctors, there are gynecologists, they're studying. Maybe there is some kind of conversation there happening about this. And that's the question. And also the comment, and because I think commemoration is important, in Greece, a femicide happened, Kyriaki Griva, and the Greeks know this, but she was killed right after exiting the police station where she went to report on what was happening to her, and she was killed the moment she stepped outside. And before this happened, she asked the police to escort her home, right? And the answer was, police are no taxis. So I think this is a very dense point of the whole conversation on bureaucracy and state violence and all that.
I would like to just tell about a group, the Medical Students for Choice and the Doctors for Choice Germany, feminist groups that are giving workshops where you can actually practice with papayas how to conduct an abortion. Yeah, it's the so-called papaya workshops. Because thanks. Yeah, the papaya has the shape of an uterus, so you can really, and then you can suck out the seeds. Thank you so much. And really try to practice. So it's really, if you Google papaya workshops in Germany, this is how at least some very engaged students and doctors are trying to raise awareness on this issue. And one of them, Alicia Bayer, she founded the groups, and she's very present also in German media, or at least if you're interested in these topics, and also very she has been attacked many times by right-wing extremists. But in general, as I myself working in university, I think besides maybe some students now that are organizing in pro-Palestine movements, the universities in Germany are not gonna be the places for change right now. I'm sorry. It's not no. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have one comment here, mine, and then I think we can.
How are we for time? That's what I'm concerned about.
No.
Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Thank you. This has been incredible. I've felt so many things in my body being here, so thank you for that. I know we've shared, and you guys have shared a lot about different methods moving forward, and I'm really interested in how we've seen how power over this dynamic is not working. People are benefiting more than others, and we have also been wrapped up in a system where we are also benefiting from it, right? And like I often think about that, like how to recreate a system that I'm deeply entrenched in. Like, what does that look like to step out of this, and what does that actually look like moving forward into a system that advocates for this power together, in an organized way, in an effective way, in a way that actually promotes equality for everyone, regardless of their choices of how they decide to live this life.
I'll just try a quick answer. I think it's a big question. It's an important question. I think tactics and strategy are important, but and that ultimately a permanent revolution would what we need. But I think not everything can be planned. There are also like conjunctures where like it's the right moment to intervene in a specific topic, or the right moment to fight for a certain issue. And this is like, I think, our task right now, to identify what can be daily done without losing maybe a bigger goal, but also to not be too harsh on ourselves.
Yeah, I think why so many of us are impacted by Black feminism is because there are communities that have never benefited from the state, ever. Like, they've never had these questions of like, how can the state help me more? How can I use the state to make me more safe? And to look to those communities because they've been building for hundreds and hundreds of years under capitalism and nationalism and things like this. And so we don't have to remake the wheel. I think we, as people that have benefited from the state, it can be preoccupying to ask the state for more when we can just look towards communities that have never had that access, that actually hold a lot of knowledge and power.
Yeah.
Just a very small comment. Actually, also, if this is not grounded in the society, the state can give and get back rights. I mean, it's something that it's also not stable. So this is the reason that we need the communities, that we need assemblies, that we need to be organized in every place, at work, in neighborhoods, in feminist, anti-racist, anti-war collectives, that actually that we spread out these beliefs, that we share this common vision of living in equal way. And yeah, this can expand. And actually, when we get, okay, we want this now from the state, but actually this is given only to this part of the society, then it wants to create also division between parts of the society in order to have it going on. I mean, all this suppressive and, oppressive and exploitive society. So actually, if we try to get it from down earth, this will stay.
Very last thing. Thank you so much for this interesting and really moving panel. I can say I felt everything also in my body as well, so I can share the same feeling. It's more a comment, or like two comments. The one is about the feelings after the abortion, and thank you for bringing that, because I feel like the feelings that sometimes are being shared is between relief and grief, right? So women do have the right to grieve. And I always remember that friend, and I ended up crying, like when she had her abortion. Then after a while she came and she was crying and she told me, like, you know what, I'm grieving and no one sees that. Even her partner couldn't see that. Even, also the partner, like her partner wanted to grieve, but he didn't have the space, or he didn't know how to do it. So I think this is very, very interesting, and we'll go back to what Stella said about the structural violence, the state violence. State violence is also when I had, or like other friends from Latin America, tried to find rescue plans in order to have an abortion, because we didn't know how can we have an abortion in Germany. And like feeling the fear of a potential abortion and potential rescue plans, this is also violence in our bodies. And I think this is also like the unseen kinds of structural violence that comes and being experienced very much by non-Germans, at least. Yeah. Thank you so much.